did they actually get raises? Or do they have to wait for their appraisal to come in and hopefully they get 60 cents or 30 cents or 20-cent raise to catch them up with the new hires? You know, it's just like a wage in the minimum wage. You just raise everybody up to the next level. And hopefully anybody that was just below that gets pushed up, and everybody who was making that wage before the minimum wage was raised, they don't go anywhere. So they get pushed to the bottom. Is that what you're talking about, Mr. Trump? Because I don't actually see that. It didn't happen in my world. Is it happening in yours, ladies and gentlemen? Leave us a comment. Now in this next segment, he says this.
Unemployment claims have hit a 45-year low.
So, according to the government statistics, the unemployment rate has hit a 45-year low. Percentage-wise, mind you. He doesn't say that, but regardless of that, do you believe that, ladies and gentlemen? Because I wasn't believing the government statistics when President Obama was in office. Why do you think they would have changed or how they calculate? Which they don't. They didn't change how they calculate what is unemployed. So maybe less people are unemployed because they can't get unemployment anymore because they used it all up. Maybe less people are looking for work. I don't know. If they're working, they probably got that part-time job because there were only 200,000 real good manufacturing jobs, according to President Trump. Now he starts to pander, which you gotta love this. Here's the next clip. Play the next clip.
And something I'm very proud of, African American unemployment stands at the lowest rate ever recorded.
Now that may be true, ladies and gentlemen, but does he really have to pander? And the funny thing in all this is, while the applause are going, they cut to the Democrat Party, and there's the whole caucus there, we'll just say. None of them are applauding that the caucus that represents the people he is speaking of are at an all-time low. None of the caucus members are applauding that. Apparently, that actuality doesn't matter to them. Maybe that fact is unimportant to them. You have to think about it. Now here he goes pandering again.
And Hispanic American unemployment has also reached the lowest levels in history.
Well, maybe he has deported all the ones that weren't working, and that's how they got the unemployment rate down there. I don't know. How about this next clip?
Small business confidence is at an all-time high.
Now, grant you, I'm with you on this one, Mr. President. I started a small business because I felt that things were going to be a little different, at least for the small business, under your administration than it was under the Obama administration. That fact alone has been proven out to be true. So, yes, small business, at least from my standpoint, has more confidence in the economy, so we will take a chance at starting our own small business. How about this next clip?
The stock market has smashed one record after another, gaining $8 trillion and more in value in just this short period of time. The great news...
So yes, the stock market has done exceptionally well under President Trump. Except right after the speech, we had two incredibly bad days, and the same week of the speech, which is we had the worst week in about 2 years. So is that a result of some kind of correction? Is that a reaction to something? We don't know. All the experts have their opinions. The John Lebang Show always tells you to mind your P's and Q's about the economy, because at any moment they can crash the economy on you, and if you're not prepared, you'll lose money that you thought you had because it was invested somewhere that took a big hit. It happened to me. In fact, I am really considering cashing in my current 401k, believe it or not, because I'm not too keen on the future of the economy because it's been doing so well. There has to be some kind of correction at some point. That is a natural cycle in the stock market, in the economy. We continue with the next clip.
The great news for Americans: 401k, retirement pension, and college savings accounts have gone through the roof.
And again, I have seen it myself in my 401k that, yes, I have seen a nice increase in the amount of money in my 401k. So yes, but again, as I just mentioned, and we'll talk about this a little later, hopefully we'll be able to squeeze it in, things aren't always as rosy as they seem to be. Here's our next clip.
And just as I promised the American people from this podium 11 months ago, we enacted the biggest tax cuts and reforms in American history.
Yes, we got the big tax cut. The 14% for corporations and the about 2% for the personal, individual taxpayer. They may be the biggest tax cut, Mr. President, but they are primarily towards the corporations. A fair tax cut would have been, Mr. President, equal across the board. Instead of 14 and 2, you should have put it at about 8% apiece, especially since the American taxpayer, the individual that is, pays more than 50% of the collected taxes or tax revenue that the federal government brings in. Here's your next clip.
Our massive tax cuts provide tremendous relief for the middle class and small business. To lower tax rates for hardworking Americans, we nearly doubled the standard deduction for everyone.
They nearly doubled the standard deduction for everyone, except you'll notice the individual who's not married. Nope, that person got hosed once again. Let's continue.
Now the first $24,000 earned by a married couple is completely tax-free.
But if you're not married, hey, we're going to go ahead and tax you. That is equal opportunity according to the Republicans, right? That's fair to the Republicans. If you're married, we'll give you a double in deductions. If you're not married, forget about you. You don't count. Here's another clip.
We also doubled the child tax credit.
Oh, wait, let me correct that. So they've also doubled the child tax credit. So if you're married and you have kids, you get not only the double in deductions, but you get the child tax credit at a better rate than you did before. And if you're not married but you have kids, you still get that double in that. But if you don't have children and you're an individual, ladies and gentlemen, the hell with you. You don't count. You don't count. Here's another clip.
A typical family of four making $75,000 will see their tax bill reduced by $2,000, slashing their tax bill in half.
But if you don't have any kids and you're not married, what do you get?
In April, this will be the last time you will ever file under the old and very broken system, and millions of Americans will have more take-home pay starting next month. A lot more.
That is to be determined, and we'll see what a lot more really entails. Because if I only see 20 or 30 bucks more in my paycheck because you took only 20, 30 bucks less, that's not real savings. And again, the tax cuts were based to help the corporations a lot more than the individual. They're giving us, crumbs comparatively to the corporations who they say employ us all, but they wouldn't be existing unless we bought all their junk. So let's make that an even across the board tax cut, and I'd be more inclined to be in your side, Mr. President. Now here's the next clip.
We eliminated an especially cruel tax that fell mostly on Americans, making less than $50,000 a year, forcing them to pay tremendous penalties simply because they couldn't afford government-ordered health plans. We repealed the core of the disastrous Obamacare. The individual mandate is now gone. Thank you.
Now, here's where I got to give President Trump and the Republicans some credit again. They did repeal the mandate. Even though they didn't follow through in getting rid of all of Obamacare, what they did is get rid of the mandate, the penalty for being alive and being an American if you couldn't afford a health care plan given to you by either the government or a private organization. Here's your next clip.
We slashed the business tax rate from 35% all the way down to 21%. So American companies can compete and win against anyone else anywhere in the world.
That's fine and dandy, Mr. President, but the individual should have received the same amount percentage-wise, at least, as the corporations. Here's your next clip.
These changes alone are estimated to increase average family income by more than $4,000. A lot of money.
A lot of money to who, Mr. President? To who? To you. $4,000 is probably spent on a golf trip, okay? So don't act like $4,000 is a lot of money because the percentages of what the corporations are going to save is far exceeding the amount that the individual is going to get back, even as a collective. So please stop with the little games of $4,000 being a lot of money. It isn't a lot of money to you and to any of these other schmendricks that are up in Washington, D.C. Here's your next clip.
Small businesses have also received a massive tax cut and can now deduct 20% of their business income.
So we're going to diverge off of the State of the Union. If you listened, you have your own opinions. I've covered what I really wanted to cover. A lot of the other foreign policy stuff and all the other gobbledygook that came with the State of the Union, it's just the same old stuff from a different guy, showing a slightly different viewpoint. But I wanted to bring up the stock market. The Dow Jones average finished on the same day that the memo came out, in the same week that this State of the Union address came out, finished 666 points in the negative territory, marking the worst week in 2 years for the stock market. And it was very interesting that they finished on 666. And you have to wonder if there's a little sign there. If there's just a little bit of messaging going on there. Especially in the week that we just had, which had a State of the Union, which had a memo that we already knew everything in it, yet was perceived by the general public as something new. Yet they didn't know, the general public that is, didn't know what was actually in it because they didn't read it. And they just followed a few memes or their favorite Clinton News Network anchor who tells them whatever propaganda piece they're told to tell people. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're right up against the clock. Want you to go to my website. That's www.jlebang.com. Check out what we have to offer you there. You can find archives of the show. Maybe you want to join in on a game. We didn't even do the 3 questions tonight. We'll get that in the second hour. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, hour number 1 is in the can. Hour number 2 coming your way. Check your local listings. This is John Lebang signing off for now from the Banger Studios. See you next hour.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.